really responsible about riding it to just try to stay healthy and in shape. I also bought a mountain bike because, when it's nice outside, I want to be riding outside. You just can't take the Peloton outside. So I've been riding my mountain bike about every week as well. We have a lot of trails above the University of Utah, which is just right above my home. Just a short drive to the east is Park City, Utah, where there are just an abundance of beautiful trails with views of our mountains and the Salt Lake City skyline. It really is an amazing place to ride. There's single tracks that are made specifically for bikes that meander through the forest. There's some reasonable climbs and downhills to really enjoy the scenery. And as the year has progressed, I have felt pretty doggone good about, maintaining my level of fitness and getting out and riding my bike. In fact, I've kind of fallen in love with mountain biking. I've always had a bike, always had a mountain bike, but I've not always ridden it like I have this year. And it has been just awesome. So I decided this last weekend, it was kind of time to step up my game, to maybe not ride the hills around here, but maybe take it to the mountain biking capital of the world, Moab, Utah. Has anybody ever heard of Moab, Utah? You've got to look it up if you've never been, or you've got to visit it. It is positioned on the edge of Canyonlands National Park and Arches National Park. It is full of natural arches, rock formations that quite literally take your breath away. Red sandstone sheer cliffs, massive valleys that sit more than 1,000 feet below the mesas and the swells. And it's an area that was formed quite literally by millions of years of wind and rain and snow. And in this particular photo, you can see the Colorado River that has carved its way through the landscape in a way that, honestly, these pictures just don't do justice. So this last weekend, I've been to Moab many, many times, but never to mountain bike because I just thought it was a little too challenging, perhaps. Maybe I was looking out for myself a little bit. I decided to throw caution to the wind and take my bike down there. And as you can imagine, the mountain bike trails and the Jeep trails in this countryside are as endless as the beauty. So I got pulled up into the parking lot, and I was unloading my bike, and in pulled a van load of tourists, because I wasn't a tourist, right? I was there. I was a mountain biker. But in pulls this van load of tourists, and they're unloading and getting the bikes down, and I can hear the guide who's going to take these guys out on this excursion, letting them know, hey guys, the terrain's going to be pretty tough at times. You can see it's a combination of rock and mud and big hills and drops and tree roots and mud puddles. And at times you're going to have to hop up on rocks as you climb, and at times you're going to have to drop off ledges as you descend to lower parts of the trail. And I was listening to this thinking, okay, well, that's what I came for. And then he says, I want to coach you just a little bit, guys. He says, I want you to trust your bike. It's designed to handle everything the trail could offer. It's equipped with a large shock on the front forks, great big knobby tires, a shock for the rear suspension, 11 gears to handle any uphill climb or downhill descent. And he told his clients, all you have to do, guys, is trust the bike. Look where you want to go and keep pedaling. Let the bike do the work. And I guess that's because he's seen a lot of folks come into this and not really know what to do. And for some reason, this stuck in my mind. I have ridden several trails this summer, and I understood exactly what he was saying, but it stuck in my mind. Trust the bike. Look where you want to go, keep pedaling, and let the bike do the work. So I went about my business. I put my helmet, my gloves on, put my riding shoes on, and I watched the tourist group go out ahead of me. I let them get ahead of me because I was no tourist. I didn't want to be a part of their group because maybe I'm not an expert, but I'm no tourist, right? So I get off onto the trail, and the scenery and the views are breathtaking. And candidly, so is the ride as it winded its way up and down the Red Rock Desert. There were several drop-offs and rock ledges to go over. And then I found myself on this unbelievably fun, windy drop down into this beautiful red clay valley. And just moving through the turns. And it was just so fun and exhilarating. The problem was I suddenly found myself in the valley. And the problem with dropping into a big valley is you've got to ride out of the valley. So I had this great big climb ahead of me, literally up what appeared to be the side of this red rock mountain, through the red clay, over the broken rock step-ups and some drop-offs, and then finally up a big, steep sandstone shoulder before it leveled out. Well, I jumped on the bike and I began pedaling, and I just began pushing. And as I approached about the last 75 yards of the climb, I was extremely winded. My legs were burning. But a small group that was above me sort of became into view. And as they could see me, they started to cheer me on. I could hear them yelling, "You're doing great, man. You got this." And as I approached the group, I was really, really struggling. I'm not going to lie. Every pedal stroke was an absolute struggle. I was focused on the ground beneath me. I was focused on how winded I was and that my legs were on fire. And I was truly struggling to keep the pedals moving. And that's when one of the riders above me yelled, "You can do it. Look up. Look where you want to go and keep pedaling." It was that guide. And amazingly enough, I looked up. And I looked up to where the rest of the riders were. And I focused on that spot where I knew that I could take a break and catch my breath. And I kept pedaling. And somehow I was able to climb that hill without getting off my bike to walk. When I reached the group ahead of me, I obviously was winded, and I stepped off the bike, and they said, "Great job." And many of them admitted to me that they had to get off their bike and ride, which I don't know. I guess I just had a moment of pride there for a second that I was able to stick with it. And over the course of the next 4 hours, because I had a 4-hour drive home, I just kept thinking about those moments where I was truly struggling, and I was on the verge of quitting and getting off of my bike and just walking that last little bit, and how those words grounded me. Trust the bike. Look where you want to go and keep pedaling. Somehow that made all the difference in that moment. And I thought about how many times in my life that, things have been really, really tough. I don't want to bore you with all of the details. These are true things. I went through a lousy divorce. I hate to admit it, but I did. I lost my father and my older brother in the same year. And that was tough. Bad decisions in my life. Made many of them. Bad breaks. Had lots of them. And I'm sure that this sounds familiar to many of you. But in each of those situations, it was my ability to find the will, the grit, the energy, whatever it was, to look ahead and to see where I wanted to be, and simply keep pedaling. Now listen, as we close today, I just want to invite you to look inside yourself. Really understand if you are in a spot where you want to be in your life, whether it's with your business, whether it's with your health, your relationships, your work-life balance, your kids, whatever it is. If not today or sometime this week, really take a look inside of yourself to understand where you are today and where you want to head in this life, where you want to be down the road a piece. And as Sarah said in her talk, when you're going from one mountaintop to the next, it's in the valleys that you get really good. This is where you make some very important decisions, some realizations, and you put things into motion, because it's in the valleys that you can look to that place that you want to go, and you can set your sights to look ahead, to keep pedaling, and to just trust the bike. Guys, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you to all of our speakers. As I mentioned earlier, there's a replay available for you as soon as we wrap this up. So if there was something you missed, something you wanted to write down, something you wanted to share with your teams, it'll be available for you on the replay. And unfortunately, this is our last On the Growth for 2020, but we will be back in early 2021 with lots more exciting meetings and opportunities to learn from our leaders and from our corporate staff, and to hear the visions of the future of Young Living, which is bright, bright, bright indeed. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see you the next time. Thank you.